I don't know about you all, but it has been so long since I have had a hug. I can't remember the last time I was hugged or where or why. It has left me feeling insignificant and as though I lack value to those around me. I am constantly craving human contact. No one reaches out to me or inquires about my life or makes any effort to show they care. Everyone around me cancels on any and all plans they commit to with me. It is not mere coincidence that people in my life choose to let me down repeatedly. All of this has left me feeling that my existence is so meaningless because if I were gone, it would not negatively affect anyone. I am not saying this just to say it. It is the cold, hard truth. It truly hurts knowing this, and my heart goes out to all the other men who are going through the same situation right now. Story 1. There was a colleague I worked with who wasn't very well liked, but I had nothing against him. It seemed like many others did, though. One day, he came into our workspace with a morose expression. I asked if something was wrong, and he shared the news that he had cancer. I was shocked, but the look on his face conveyed such a sense of loss. I immediately opened my arms and gave him a big hug. I received some criticism from a couple of the older employees in the back, but I didn't care. His eyes were pleading for comfort, and I felt it was necessary to offer it. Story 2. I have nieces and nephews who love me, and I see them every week. They always hug me. My last dose of hugs was today and yesterday. My niece got a boyfriend who likes fishing, so he has been fishing here a lot. Story 3. My best friend stops by a few times a month, and we share a very affectionate fist bump when he leaves. That's all I need. And no, fist bump is not a metaphor for something else. Story 4. Very common. Can be difficult, and touch starvation is a real issue. Body pillows and weighted blankets can help with this. They are not a perfect solution, but they do have a positive effect. Story 5. I'm not really into randomly hugging people I don't know, but my friends are huggers when they're drunk, so it's part of the see you later routine. I hug and cuddle my girlfriend when I see her, which is basically once a week. I hug both my parents when I see them, usually once a month or 6 times a year with my dad since he's overseas half the year. They're aging and I maintain a good relationship with them. Unfortunately, there will be a day when I can't hug either one of them. Story 6. I would give you a hug, dog. I would hug you a lot, my friend. No need to worry about what anyone thinks. I hope this brings a smile to your face, even if times are tough. Keep your head up, my man. I'm thinking about you. Story 7. One of my friend's children comes running at me for a hug. As for hugging someone I have feelings for, I am in the same situation as you. Story 8. There was a barmaid at my local bar who was generous with hugs. I sought her out at least once a week. She moved on with her life, and I really miss her. It's been a year. Story 9. It is quite common. Sometimes I connect with women just to feel close to someone. There is nothing better than being the little spoon. Story 10. I don't remember the last time I received a hug, probably from my sister a few years ago, and that's about it for even longer. It's an endless cycle of feeling alienated from a young age, having parents who were not truly invested in my interests and not sharing theirs in return. I find myself repeatedly in a situation where I have to reach out to others for every little interaction, so I tend to avoid it. Even with the people I consider to have a good relationship with, I feel like I need to be the one to initiate contact just to have a conversation. Story 11. My heart breaks as I read about your and other men's isolated lives. I know all too well how bleak the days can be. I wish I had the ability to hug all of you every day. It's impossible, yet it is imaginable. Laugh if you want, but know I am doing all I can to offer comfort. Stand or sit against a wall or chair, and imagine someone is behind you with their arms around you. Now, close your eyes and cross your arms around your chest, ensuring your hands are firmly grasping opposite shoulders. As you lean back, hold yourself as tight as you want. I am the one who just hugged you. Story 12. It is very much my normal. I have come to believe that I bring out the worst in people, even though I try to be polite and respectful. Therefore, I keep away from people and do not impose my presence on anyone. Story 13. I think it has been 6 months since I was last held in someone's arms. Being a man often means experiencing long periods of loneliness. Story 14. It's unfortunately common. However, if you have a good group of friends who genuinely care about you and are all comfortable with their sexualities, you shouldn't have to go without physical contact if you don't want to. I hug my friends all the time. In fact, I cuddle with both girls and guys in a completely platonic way. It's great. Story 15. Well, obviously I can't speak for all guys. I hug my friends or their girlfriends, wives, or fiancés when we party or have barbecues to say hi. I also hug my friends. But those aren't like embraces, which is what I think you're getting at. The last time I experienced that was about a year ago. Story 16. If the perception was that men could accept it platonically, I think it would happen more often. But everyone is sensitive about feelings and thinks that things have to be a certain way or mean something more. Sometimes, what am I saying? Often, people need the basics of physical touch, care, and a sense of camaraderie. Hug your fellow man. Love each other. It's good for us all. And don't make it weird. Story 17. I think some people care more about it than others, and there is nothing wrong with either perspective. You need to find a partner who is willing to reach out to you. There is nothing wrong with wanting love. Try using dating apps. I have recently separated from my ex-wife, and all I want now is to be left alone for at least 6 months. Story 18. I have 2 girls I spend time with occasionally. A few nights ago, I was hanging out with a girl I used to work with. Although we are just friends, I feel there may be something more between us. She touched my hand for a brief moment, and I've been thinking about her ever since. I'm just feeling really down emotionally. Story 19. It is very normal, especially if your family isn't around. Additionally, it tends to accumulate. When you mention that you haven't been in a relationship for a long time, people often assume that you are set in your ways, which can be a deal breaker. I don't have specific advice, but I can say that seeking happiness in others is a guaranteed way to end up disappointed. Story 20. As a woman, I have never given thought to this before, and now I am wondering how many men feel the same as you. Probably many, and that is sad. I am here to remind you that you are not insignificant. You matter, and I hope you find someone who can give you all the hugs and love you desire. Story 21. This is what I don't understand. Why don't you hug your friends? Why do women find it easy to be affectionate with their friends, but men do not? I don't get it. Is there some unspoken code among you that prevents it, and when is it established? I believe that rectifying this will solve everything. Let yourselves be affectionate and hug each other to your heart's content. Story 22. A recent study found that among men aged 18 to 30, 30% are virgins or have not had sexual intercourse in over a year. This phenomenon is becoming increasingly common. Story 23. Women rarely go out of their way to show affection towards men. Men often have to initiate contact. It's demoralizing and I dislike it. Story 24. As a woman, I understand the feeling of needing human touch, care, and effort. Everyone in my life is either partnered, has children, or is busy. I have thought about whose life I would impact if I were gone. It is a sad reality. Story 25. I haven't had any kind of non-platonic contact, including being held, in the last 4 or 5 years. I am half tempted to become a monk so I don't lose my mind at this point. Story 26. The last time I had prolonged physical contact with anyone, such as more than a brief hug and greeting, was in June 2021. Before that, it was in September 2020, and before that, in June 2018. That is all. Story 27. On average, it is extremely common. It depends on family dynamics, friend groups, pets, and receptiveness. Story 28. The last time I was cuddled was when I was 16, and the last time I was hugged was the day of my high school graduation. I am currently 25. Story 29. I am 32 years old and haven't been in a serious relationship for over 13 years. My last relationship lasted about 2 dates approximately 6 or 7 years ago. I struggle with erectile dysfunction. The doctor says it's a mental issue. It's ironic because I feel a strong desire for intimacy. Now, I visit an Asian massage parlor when I crave human touch. It's been about 6 months since I last went. Story 30. I began hugging my male friends, and some of them had female friends who saw me and asked for hugs. I am now in a social circle where everyone gives and receives hugs. Story 31. Ask for a hug from the next person you meet whom you're comfortable with. You feel down because it's necessary for a person to be hugged. You do matter. Story 32. As a woman who misses the touch of someone who cares, I understand. We're not supposed to discuss it because it's seen as depressing, and reality often avoids honest discussions. If I knew you in real life, I'd gladly give you a big hug. There are many lonely people in the world. Sending you a warm hug from afar. Story 33. I'm sorry you're going through this. I wish I could give you a hug. Feeling like your existence is meaningless is a horrible experience, and many of us have been there before. Regarding the social aspect of your life, try to remain open to others for friendships and relationships. You will form meaningful connections over time. You are just waiting for the right people to appear. In terms of your mental health, try to engage in activities that make you happy and keep your mind in a better place. If you find yourself feeling that your existence is meaningless more frequently, it's important to talk to a healthcare provider about the signs and symptoms of depression. You are not alone. Story 34. Honestly, I can't remember. It must be several years now. I would have to go back to before COVID-19, and probably even longer than that. Story 35. It has been several years since I have been held. I have received hugs, but they have been primarily platonic hugs with family, male friends, or the wives of male friends. Story 36. Well, my last girlfriend was 10 years ago. I'm not really a hugger unless I have a close personal relationship with someone. Story 37. The last hug I had was 3 years ago, and 2 years before that. I have been single since a year before that. Story 38. I can't determine how common it is because I don't know the last time every guy was hugged in a platonic way. However, the last time I was held by someone who wasn't a friend, acquaintance, or family member was in February 2022. I was with someone at their place and we cuddled. They initiated some foreplay, and I say they did and not we, because I was just following their lead. It turned into something non-affectionate that was reckless and intimate, but it was safe and consensual. I recommend that you talk to a relative or neighbor about how you've been feeling and express that a hug would be very helpful to you. If that's not possible, consider visiting a larger establishment and sharing a brief overview of what's been going on with you. Ask if there's someone you could talk to, whether they are on duty or not, who is a good listener and may be open to giving you a hug afterward. Story 39. I do not know when my mother last hugged me, but it was well before my 12th birthday. I do not know if my dad ever hugged me or shook my hand. When I was dating my wife at the age of 28, I was driving her home one evening when she told me she was going to hug me when I dropped her off. I nearly hit a pole on the side of the road from fear and shock. I know that from my early childhood until I was dating her, I never had a single hug. Story 40. I honestly prefer not to be touched by people or strangers. A hug of greeting is fine, but most of the time I would rather not. Story 41. Very common. Can take years. This is one of the aspects of being male that I have found women truly do not understand. Story 42. It has been years since I have been hugged. My family members are not huggers, so for me, platonic hugs are extremely uncomfortable. I do enjoy hugs and absolutely love to cuddle, probably more than intimacy at times. However, it has to be with the right person. Story 43. I can't remember the last time I received a hug that was anything more than a greeting, and that's when I'm lucky. I don't think I've ever had someone hug me in an affectionate or caring way. Story 44. The only person to hug me was my uncle back in 2007. Our age difference is small, so I spent summer vacations growing up with him, playing games and watching movies and television shows. He saw me after an 8-year gap and gave me a really tight hug. That's it. Never before and never again. Story 45. The last time I had an affectionate hug was when I hugged my mom as she walked in the front door. My stepdad said something like, "Get off your mom. Why are you always on your mom's side?" That was the last time I got a hug for years. I was around 7 at the time. I remember one time when I went to ride my bike around town. Instead of giving her a hug on the way out, I gave her a handshake. Story 46. I was single from the age of 28 to 44, living on my own and not dating. I went without cuddling, physical touch, or any dates for 16 years. I was married until I was 58, and now I have been single again for the last 6 years. It is likely that I will go the rest of my life without being touched. You get used to it. Story 47. It's been 3 years, mate. Could be much worse. I could be in prison or dead. But at night, when I'm lying in bed alone for the 850th day in a row, I do think about it, and it does take a toll. Story 48. It's been 5 months since I've had a hug, kiss, sexual intimacy, or any form of affection. I rely solely on autonomous sensory meridian response and hope. Story 49. Our parents complained about intimacy without sex. Our generation complains about sex without intimacy. Story 50. I don't know about everyone else, but I think the last time I was held or hugged was before I turned 10. I'm young, though, so it's not like I've gone for 40 years without it or anything. Story 51. I remember the only hug that meant a lot to me, from my old friend about 6 or 7 years ago. She hugged me after I gave her a gift, and it was nice. I haven't had a meaningful hug since then. I get some of the forced ones during family visits, but they don't have the same impact as someone hugging you for their own reasons. Story 52. Almost 3 years since my divorce, so about 4.5 years. All of this has left me feeling that my existence as a whole is meaningless because if I were gone, it wouldn't negatively affect anyone. I'm not simply saying that for the sake of saying it. It's the cold, hard truth. You may benefit from therapy. I certainly have. Story 53. This may be about more than being held. It is about you not being treated with a reasonable amount of decency and respect by those who are supposed to be your friends and family. I suggest making at least one new friend who, even if they are not hugging you, cares enough to follow through on their commitments to you by showing up. It's not that you lack quality. It's that the people you are hanging around do not value you properly. That's on them, not you. Those people are bringing you down and are a waste of your time. More than just getting on a dating app, which can leave people feeling cold. How about joining some platonic friendship and shared interest groups? I go on sailboat outings with other like-minded strangers through a site called Meetup. I've also joined dance groups, coffee groups, and more. Consider it. I also suggest getting a pet, such as a dog or cat, for hours of cuddling, and they always think you're the best. Additionally, consider exploring some form of spiritual faith, not necessarily a religion, where you can recognize how loved we all are by a higher power. You are very special indeed. Story 54. By a woman? The last time was 10 years ago, or 4 months if you count sex workers. By another man? The last time was about 2 months ago after 2 rounds of sparring. It's common to go months without any hugs or even a pat on the shoulder. Story 55. I am a single father with a good family, plenty of friends, and 2 great children. Apart from the hugs I receive from my kids, the last time I had any physical affection was in 2011. It's pretty common. Story 56. Don't you just get used to it? I see my parents every few weeks, so I do receive hugs. But in the intimate sense, it's been so long I cannot remember. I'm not even sure what it feels like anymore, so I can't say I really miss it too much. Story 57. Very uncommon for me. I am married now, but before that, my few close friends would not allow me to date, so they constantly set me up on dates, sometimes just for that purpose. Story 58. It's just normal for me. It has probably been 17 years since I have been hugged or anything like that. I am now 30 and do not really know a world where that isn't the case. Story 59. I am grateful for my parents who both embrace me. If I did not have them, I would feel alone. I understand how fortunate I am. Story 60. I haven't had a hug in 3 years. It has been longer than that since someone squeezed my shoulders or held my hand. Story 61. I have gone years without a hug. I grew up in a culture where hugging was quite rare, and my immediate family are not huggers, so this was normal for me, I guess. Since leaving, I do hug others who hug me, and I appreciate it as an expression of liking someone or being happy to see them. That said, I can feel that people are happy to see me even if they don't hug me. So it's really not a necessity or something I feel empty without. Story 62. I understand how you feel. I often go out of my way to help others, and while I don't mean to brag, I like to think my generosity is above average. However, I rarely get reached out to or included in the plans made by those around me. My immediate family is the only group that consistently includes me, and I appreciate that even if it's simply because it's our family norm. I would like to express my gratitude for you sharing your feelings about this. It reassures me that I'm not alone in my experiences. I found comfort in performing random acts of kindness toward people I don't know, like complimenting strangers or paying for someone's order in a drive-thru. These actions not only boost my mood, but can also connect me with new, caring individuals. By putting positive energy into the world, you might find it returning to you in unexpected ways. Feels good, akin to receiving a warm hug, regardless of whether the kindness is returned. Stay positive, and remember I'm here if you ever want to talk. Feel free to reach out anytime. Everything will be okay, and your life is meaningful. You may not realize how helpful your post has been, not just to me, but to many others who share similar feelings. It's important to remind ourselves that everyone goes through tough times and that these feelings, too, will pass. Stay strong, and thank you for sharing. Story 63. Now I have a girlfriend, and I have no issue with this. Before I met her, I went through long periods of not being held by someone, sometimes for up to a year. I found that very difficult, and it can have a negative impact on people's mental health. Certainly did for me. Story 64. I have been in your situation for 3 years. This is quite common for men. At least 1/3 of men are in the same situation. Story 65. I have had a few years during which the only human touch I experienced was the occasional handshake, apart from family. Story 66. I think you can hire a professional hugger, but nothing strange. Please find a hobby or join a class where you can interact with people regularly. Consider going to the gym with others. You need human contact. Story 67. I haven't been intimate with anyone or even held hands in 9 years. There was a 5-year drought before that. It is difficult, but that's how it goes. When you are an antisocial introvert, life tends to drift away from people, which is just fine. It is challenging, but it's acceptable. You get used to it. Story 68. It is likely far too common. Men inherently do not like to show weakness, and unfortunately, being lonely, especially due to social ineptness, is perceived as a weakness. I am an only child with strong avoidance traits, a classic introvert. However, I force myself to go out and maintain friendships. I rely on my more extroverted friends to involve me in activities. I rarely decline a social event, even if I really do not want to attend. You must help yourself. While I empathize with those who feel very lonely, only they can resolve their situation. There are many approaches to take. If you cannot reach out to people, find a way to bring them to you. Inaction is the worst response. Story 69. This is a major reason why I am going through a separation right now. There is no hand-holding, no touching, and no affection of any kind. I have a new girlfriend, and my ex has a new boyfriend. For some reason, she has no difficulty touching him, while my new partner is very affectionate. It is working out well. Story 70. Not sure if it's a cultural thing, but I love my parents, and when we see each other, we hug. I always hug my mom and kiss her cheek. Story 71. Hug yourself. It may sound crazy, but you are never alone and never too far from a hug. Give yourself the comfort you deserve. Story 72. Honestly, there are many strangers out there who would give you a hug if they read this. You should seek out a social group that will welcome you. Even attending a support group can help you find someone to talk with. You could also consider seeing a therapist for just 1 or 2 sessions to express your feelings. I wish you the best, and I'm sorry you're feeling lonely. I have been single for most of my adult life by choice. I don't get held or hugged very often, but it does happen. To be honest, I don't mind being alone. However, I know that most people struggle with being alone for too long. Keep going and never give up. Story 73. Take a look at men's suicide rates for an answer. Over 20 men have taken their own lives in the United States while you type that question from a form of loneliness. Story 74. The last time I initiated a hug was 14 months and 23 days ago. The time before that was a little over 3 years ago, and before that it was probably close to 4 or 5 years ago. Surprise hugs are very elusive. Story 75. Before my separation and subsequent divorce, I would have said it was rare. But since I've been single, a lack of human contact has become the norm. It's disappointing. Story 76. I receive a hug every few months on average, which is nice. When it comes to being held, it depends on how you define that. If you mean something longer than a quick hug between friends, then I can't recall. That likely means I haven't been held since I was 4 or 5 years old. Story 77. It has been almost 2 years for me. I have received hugs from the wives of friends, but no romantic gestures. Story 78. I have introduced the use of the word love into my close friend group. Love, pride, excitement, support. How can we help each other? Fortunately, there are some European and Latino males in the group, so we kiss on the cheeks too. I feel a little overwhelmed when they kiss me, but I also feel a sense of belonging and openness. We also have a silly group chat for memes, girl issues, and jokes. Every so often, someone will go quiet, and their private chat is filled with love and concern. Men, embrace your emotions. Move past the macho ego to be happier and more secure. People appreciate it. Story 79. It's common for my friend group to hug as a greeting or goodbye. We are all fans of Warhammer 40,000, Dungeons and Dragons, and video games, confident in our masculinity. We regularly tease each other, sharing some of the most outrageous and humorous remarks, fully expecting to receive equal or worse teasing in return. Just a regular group of friends, really. Story 80. I am 53 years old and I have never been shown affection or had a voluntary hug, except from my mom. When she goes, I go. I have only ever experienced rejection and a lack of compassion from women whenever I have tried to express my feelings. Story 81. It is common. Fortunately, I do not crave or care for physical touch that much. Otherwise, I can see how it could be problematic. Story 82. When this thought arises, it can feel really dark. My personal tips are simple. Seek a hug from family, friends, coworkers, or sympathetic strangers. Most of the time when I say, "Excuse me, I'm feeling down. Could you hug me?" it works. And if someone asks me for a hug, they get one. In short, listen to your needs and don't be afraid to ask for support. There is hope. Story 83. Very common, at least for me. I haven't had physical contact in any way in at least 3 years. Being in an all-boys group at school doesn't help at all. You get used to it, but sometimes it feels lonely. Story 84. Well, let's see. The last time I had a hug or even felt a woman's touch was with my mom. However, the question seems to be about non-familial women offering comfort. That would have to be my ex-wife, and she was not one for hugs, so I would say it has been more than a decade. Such is life. Story 85. I don't know if it's common or not, but here I am about to turn 37, and I can say it's been a decade since I've received a hug from a romantic interest or anyone outside of my family. I understand I'm short at 5 feet 5 inches, but I consider myself relatively attractive with an athletic build. I just don't receive any attention or appreciation. I simply exist as an average person. Honestly, if I get one compliment a year, it would be a lot. I'm often shocked when someone does something nice for me unsolicited, thinking there must be some kind of catch. It no longer bothers me. I just get up with the sun, put a smile on my face, and carry on. Story 86. I think this reflects both a Western attitude and societal expectations of masculinity. In many developing cultures, male physical affection is quite common. For instance, you might see 2 Indian men holding hands and laughing, and while some may perceive that as unusual, they do not face the same issues related to masculinity. Story 87. It has been about a year since I had a good hug. My ex-girlfriend and I used to hug every morning before we went our separate ways for the day. and those were the best hugs I have ever had. I definitely took them for granted. Story 88. I received one about 2 weeks ago from a coworker, and it felt really nice after going through heartbreak for almost 2 years. Story 89. Personally, if I go a few months without it, I start to seek it and will find it when I try. The most I've gone is 2 years after my divorce during the pandemic, and I know many people struggle with it more than I do. Story 90. When I finish getting dressed in front of the mirror just before I go out, I sometimes say to myself, nobody cares about you. I find comfort in the fact that it's true. Story 91. Why do you think they act this way? Perhaps they are the ones who feel insignificant. Reflect on whether you share similar traits. Consider if there is someone in your life you have overlooked. This is the best approach. Be the person you wish others would be. Additionally, please take time to read the Quran. Your purpose in life is not defined by others. We are all on earth for a brief journey. There is more to existence. Story 92. Many of us feel lost, forgotten, and unloved. It's been a long time, but stay strong. I know it's tough. We may not feel important beyond our usefulness, but occasional pleasures can help lift your spirits. Story 93. 1 year so far. Prior to my last relationship in 2023, which lasted about 4 months, it was probably around 6 to 7 years. I've lost count. Story 94. I have always received hugs growing up from family, friends, and women. I think that is very different from being held. Being held is much deeper. Before having children, I would go years without being held. Now, my children hug and hold me every day. I couldn't be happier. My partner loves me so much that she always invades my space with affection. I believe that men do not need as much affection as women do, but we do need it. Every man should work hard to create an environment for a good woman to be in so that he can start a family and begin a much happier life. Story 95. I haven't been hugged in a few weeks. The last time I was hugged was when I saw my mom. I'm perfectly fine, though hugs or no hugs is no big deal for me. Story 96. I didn't bother to read any comments here for some reason. However, I know men rarely receive affection or praise, so once I got into a position of leadership, I made sure to praise more than I critique and give physical validation as well. Even the older gentleman who barely manages to communicate with anyone, now close to 70, gave me a hug and a broad smile the other day. I should also mention that I am 42, so I may not be very typical. Story 97. Outside of family, I have been in this situation for about 12 years, as far as I can remember. Currently, my family is facing some difficult circumstances. So a cousin and her 3 daughters are living with my dad and me since they had nowhere else to go. The youngest is 7 and often hugs me the first time she sees me. She can be quite a handful. While I'm glad I'm not her dad, I hope to be the cool uncle. Story 98. All I can say is, be the change you want to see in the world. I am a single man, but I started approaching people because I knew I would probably be dead just waiting for someone to approach me. I started small, greeting people and hugging them when it seemed appropriate. We are the ones responsible for shaping our lives. Give and you will receive. Story 99. Ask your friends specifically for a hug. They cannot read your mind, and it is very difficult for people to survive without human contact. If you need a hug, ask them. Don't suffer in silence. Story 100. I haven't dated anyone in 2 years. I am 22 now. It is difficult, but it is a reality. If I didn't have a dog, I would feel much lonelier. Story 101. I am 22 years old and I have never had my first kiss. My last date was in 6th grade when I was 12, and the only hugs I receive are from my mom's coworkers when I occasionally visit her at work. Story 102. It's pretty normal. We usually give hugs at most, but men don't typically touch other men, and women only touch men they like for good reason. I mean, I guess it can be tough sometimes, but it makes you stronger. Having that mental toughness is part of what it means to be a man. So, toughen up, my friend. You can do it. Story 103. I don't know how it is where you live. My culture is very warm and physical. Friends often shake hands enthusiastically, which is common among close friends. Hugging is also really common, especially among friends and family. I can't imagine my family being in the same room with me and not hugging me. I hope you can find the love you need. Story 104. Many years ago, I discovered that getting a massage helps with touch deprivation. A legitimate, non-sexual massage by a licensed massage therapist can be beneficial. Story 105. All I can say is I love being left alone. People irritate me. I haven't touched another person except for maybe a handshake in 9 years. It's been wonderful. Every time people get close, they tend to have bad intentions. They either accuse you of invading their space, pickpocketing, having bad breath or body odor, or they insult you like my exes used to. I have had too many bad experiences to allow people into my circle. Story 106. Go to church. No, I'm not religious. And no, I don't go to church. But you should go. Despite what you're taught in school or college, you don't have to blindly accept everything that others espouse. Take what you need and leave the rest. You'll get some hugs. Wait, now is not the time to be picky about who the hugs are coming from, is it? This one will be tough, but try to be of service to others first. I know it's difficult to put yourself out there when you're hurting and feeling like nobody cares about you. But I assure you that if you volunteer at the local charity's homeless lunch program, you'll feel good being of service to others. You'll receive some great leftovers, make a difference, no matter how small and fleeting, in another person's life, and best of all, probably a heartfelt hug from someone who cares. Sure, that might not be as exciting as a hug from someone else, but sometimes you get what you need, not what you want. Good luck. There's some pain in your post, and I am serious in mine. Take care. Oh, and to answer your question, years and years, that's how long people can go without attention or affection. And it's only getting worse out there. Many are unkind, and it shows. Story 107. Outside of hugging my mom, I refuse to be touched by anyone. I will physically jump or slap someone that tries to touch me. I have had too many bad experiences to be messed with. Story 108. I am not a sage, nor do I feel wise enough to give advice at the moment, but I recommend posting this in Stoicism or Stoic advice. Story 109. Seek God, He makes you feel complete. When you seek His kingdom, His blessings come to you naturally. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.